I am a former teacher, and I grew up in the Black church, as I was saying in my session yesterday, so the call and response is important, especially after lunch. So thank you all for that. And it is a good afternoon. I'm Angela Romans, and I've been a part of the PAS network for since the beginning, actually, which I'm excited about. It's been wonderful, and I am even more excited to have met and be able to facilitate the folks at Memphis Peer Power sharing their story today. We're part of the Getting Started and Keeping It Going strand of the conference, so folks are going to talk about how they've started their work and how they've been able to sustain the work over time and what the future potentially looks like. So I am going to jump out of the way and let our participants introduce themselves. Let's just do a quick introductions, and then we'll hand it off to Dennis to get started.
Hi, I'm Dennis Ring. I'm the Community Development Director for Peer Power.
I'm Tom Neenan. I'm a philosophy professor at the University of Memphis and University of Columbus.
Good afternoon. I'm Angela Wylaw, Deputy Superintendent at Shelby County Schools.
All right.
Well, thank you for being here. Peer Power really has put a lot of time and effort. You can see our number of hours in the classroom. These are actual student paid hours. What Peer Power is we take University of Memphis students, train and employ them, and then put them into what now are 5 high schools in Shelby County. And we're in math, science, and English classes. Classes tested by the state of Tennessee. This is a number as of last month. So come December, we will go over the 1.2 million hours in classrooms. What moved me to be a part of Peer Power is this is my 30th year in education. When I first saw what was happening, we were talking about the increased graduation rates, the increased inter-course tests. What I saw was the increased energy of a teacher at the end of the day in April on the second floor with 30 students and 2 success coaches. So the teacher retention part and what the value was to a teacher in the classroom was really important to my philosophy of how we improve education. We offer that support 5 days a week, every day of the year. Our success coaches receive 40 hours of training. Dr. Mary Grace Hemme is our director of training in the summer. They get 40 hours. That's based on all kinds of things that you would see. We'll be coming up soon to do Equity Champions workshop with the school system. These opportunities, though, we saw the graduation rate at Whitehaven High School when we got there go from 74.7 to 92% now. Okay. So we came here 3 years ago. We were founded by a gentleman named Charlie McVeigh. Charlie is a very successful cattle trader. He was a philosophy major at Vanderbilt University. And Charlie's alma mater was East High. He went back to East High, and he saw that it was struggling and that maybe they needed some more help. Charlie, being an entrepreneur, decided that business should be able to jump in and help. So his initial thought was, I'm going to pay high school students, top-notch high school students, to tutor their peers, and I'm going to give them $10 an hour. It worked beautifully after school, but as many things do when they're voluntary, they kind of slide by the side. So in 2014, Dorsey Hobson, the then superintendent of the schools, and Peer Power and the University of Memphis came together and said, we're going to form a union that's going to put students in the classrooms during the day. So now, a success coach for Peer Power will end up in the classroom with the same teacher the same day and the same students each week. That first conference, when we left, Joanna calls us up and says the feedback is that, hey, not everybody can have somebody, that one wealthy guy that's going to fund something. So we took that into consideration, and we started talking about the whole community funding. So what went from Charlie being 85 to 90% of our funding is now less than 20%. The Shelby County Schools came in as a partner. Last year, when we came here and we talked about this diversification of funding, Tom was sitting with Tim from Georgia State, and all of a sudden the idea came up, well, we should have a Peer Power Institute, and then we can use the Pell Grant work study. So now on campus, and probably the most wonderful place you could have it, We have an office right beside of the Department of or the Division of Education. That helped us diversify the funding with Peer Power, the school system. The expansion happened because of the funding. So we went from 3 schools and we're now in 5 schools. All of these came from this conference. Parts were saying, well, okay, so you're successful in 1 school, you're successful in 2, 3. Now we're in 5, and we're looking to expand even more. The success coach position. What makes it popular? Memphis is a city of workers. Our motto is grit and grind. Okay, you've seen our basketball teams 5 years ago. That's grit and grind. If you want to see our basketball team this year at the University of Memphis, you're gonna have to pay a premium ticket. Competitive wages. We pay success coaches $11.50 to $16 an hour, based on their experience and what we need. Science. We all know science is a higher quality. We don't find as many, so they may get paid a little bit more to start with. But they're tested to see what they're capable of doing. University of Memphis wonderfully has allowed us to help with their schedules, to fit it in so that they can be done with classes in a period where they can come out. They may work 9 hours a week, but it may be 4 hours one day and 5 hours another. Internship and academic credit. Another credit to the University of Memphis, who has said, hey, these are real world skills that can be, we can put into it. And then the success coach development, the summer training that we put them through is just remarkable. So that is 40 hours, and then our partnership with Shelby County Schools is seeing where we are is wonderful. This is who our success coaches are. A diverse group that makes up 125 of them right now. GPA is the average ACT score. The number you see here, 58% of success coaches at Shelby County Schools, that's increasing because we're doing a better job of recruiting from the schools, from our schools to attend the University of Memphis. 21 of our success coaches are from one of our 5 schools that we are at. 63 have become success coach or have become teachers. That's a pretty good number based on. And then the average length of service is 4 academic semesters. Some of that is because we get them a lot of times in their junior and senior years.
Okay, so first of all, so University of Memphis, in addition to playing basketball, also has 22,000 students, about 17,000 are undergraduate. It is an extremely diverse university in every way. We are about 40% first gen. Like many other institutions, people assume they're all first gen, but I had somebody on my advisory board who could write 7-figure checks and was very proud that his grandson was also attending the University of Memphis. So you can't assume anything about our students. They come from all over the world. Their ancestors come from all over the world. They have all sorts of income levels. But one of the things we did know, and this is relevant, when our College of Education was looking to see about teacher retention, what we found out is that students who come from suburban private schools ended up without 4 or 5 years at suburban private schools. Students that had come from rural schools went back and went into rural schools. And so one of our problems is out of a school district that's about approximately 80% African American and not usually from well-to-do families, then getting enough students from our system back in, helping them become teachers, and then they would go into those schools, they knew how to operate, they were comfortable, be committed. That was a big thing we're having to do. So when Dennis said a lot of these people are choosing to be teachers, they're coming in, and what's really good is they're a math or a biology or an English major or something like that. They get into Peer Power and said, you know what? Actually, I found out, I actually went down and I was at the hospital, and sick people really are sick, so I don't know if I want to be a doctor. Or I got my second B in science, I guess I'm not a doctor anymore. They said, you know what, I love science though, and instead of going into the lab, I like working with people, I'm going to be a teacher. So we're discovering this is a great teacher recruiting thing. We also believe, and that's why we put it in the College of Education, if you think you want to be a teacher, let's get you in a school with a good principal, good teachers. Let's train you day to day. Let you get used to working with these students, and you might become a good teacher. Stick around and get excited. So we believe if you want to be a teacher, you should be doing this as part of your training, and they're getting academic credit for it. But we're also finding out it's a great recruitment tool. And as Dean of Arts and Sciences, which I was until last year, I had some money on the side that's dedicated, and we're going to give some extra scholarship money to students that are pursuing licensure on the side. And one of the things I pushed is for everybody to have elective credit so they get a double major or get very close to a major in math, science, or something, and perhaps completely or very close to licensure within that regular 120 hours. So it's really working for us. Let me see, I go this way. Our students, as I said, some come from well-to-do families, most do not. Our students almost always work, and one of our challenges we know for our graduation rate is they work too much. Well, 20 years ago I used to say don't work so much. Tuition was only a couple $1,000s back then. Families were doing better, and even then they still weren't taking my advice. So we now know that this don't work thing doesn't make much sense. What makes sense? Encourage them to do work that is going to overlap with their academic preparation. And by what's the best way to work on your writing, your math, your science? Get up to speed, teach it to others. So this is actually strengthening their academic core. Secondly, and I particularly like this, it also is teaching them leadership, it's teaching them communication skills, it's teaching them teamwork skills, and it's instilling the right kind of values. And so this is really important as preparation, not just for academics. So it does pay enough that they're not going to have to go out and get a third job or a second job. It overlaps with what they're doing, so it overcomes one of our challenges, their financial insecurity, in a way that doesn't compete with their academic success and their time to graduation. I'll give you that stats in a moment. A soft skills gift. We just assume students know teamwork. We just assume these things. Where did you learn them? Some of us might have learned them some other places, but not all our students come in with those skills. And so this helps bridge that. And we're going to see that it really has done that. So when I happened to be at a meeting asking Charlie for some money for the college, and he said, I'm sorry, I'm investing in a little project, I can't do that, but could you help me find 100 success coaches because we're going to be moving them into schools? Our mission as the University of Memphis is to improve our community. I said, this is a no-brainer. I believe this will be great for the coaches. We know it's proving to be successful in the schools, and now that we've embedded it, it's not just successful for the students that are already going the extra mile, the ones that come after school and are going to go to the Ivy League or go off anyway. This is going to help the student that needs the help the most, and it really has proven to do that. So it seemed to me this is obvious that we should do it, and that's where it came in. So it is turning out to do those things. It works in these ways on the soft skills that you can think about. And so what we did is we then added recently the Peer Power Institute. You were talking about diversification of funding, but it does a few things. First of all, Mary Grace and Gabby here are now employees at the University of Memphis, supported by the Peer Power Foundation. But for instance, what they can now do is they have access, and without any extra permission or any other things, to all of our student systems. So they can track the success coaches and how they're doing as members of the University of Memphis, and they can report that. A lot of these students are going to end up at the University of Memphis from these 5 schools, and they can report out how they're doing in class. They can even report out how they're doing in their English classes and things like that. So access to data is a big advantage. The second one is now, if through the Peer Power Foundation, if that money comes to us or comes to the Peer Power Foundation and they're work study eligible, and a large number are, then the federal government is covering 3/4 of the cost of that. So Shelby County or philanthropic supporters don't have to pick up nearly as much because the federal government is now doing that. And then we're very pleased, and that was very important, that Shelby County Schools is recognizing this is a really cost-effective way to retain teachers, to make the teachers more effective, and to become outcomes. So that's why we believe that this is going to be very, very helpful. And then, of course, it allows them to have a constant presence on our campus and help groom new success coaches or talk about success coaches and help them succeed in all the other things they're doing while they're students here. And so this is how they recruit. They talk about the advantages. And then luckily, we're seeing a generation, and people can talk about young people all the time. Old people always talk about young people and terrible. But mostly, I'm really impressed. I'm seeing so many people that want to give back. I'm giving so many young people who want to be connected. So it's not just about extrinsic things. All you have to do is point out the intrinsic satisfaction, the intrinsic motivations, and then we have the extrinsic thing. It helps them do these sorts of things. So they are, Tier Connect is where they're actually encouraging the seniors to come in and think about being tutors while they're here. And for us, that's been really increased. We've seen increased recruitment from those schools for a few things. Number one, they know a satisfied student and a successful student that's at the University of Memphis, and very often looks like them, has a similar experience, similar background. That's a strong tool. Wherever they go, it helps them understand you can go to college. And if you want to put 100 miles between you and your parents, and you can afford to do it, that's great, but you can go to school, right? And the University of Memphis is a viable option for you if you need to stay home and help your family, if you want to be close to your family, we are a very viable option. So it's also helping us in student recruitment, and so that's where they help do that. And so these are what you can read yourself, but the student testimonials are quite moving and are very, very strong. So I'm going to turn it over to Angela, and she's going to talk about this from the school system perspective.
Thank you, Tom. Good afternoon again. Here I want to talk about Shelby County Schools. First of all, let me say this. This has truly been a true partnership, because inside of the urban school district, what else can we do to ensure that we're moving forward? So definitely want to share with you a couple of things, as well as to have you think about how do you now move into this place? How do you get started? Because it's truly been a benefit for us. I want to give you a backdrop talking about Shelby County first, so that you can fully understand this is our makeup, this is our fabric, this is how we exist. 77% of our students are African Americans, 14% Hispanic, 7% white, 2% other. Over 50% of our families fall in the poverty. So if you look at the bottom, Shelby County has 21.7% overall, 27.8% what I like to call inside the loop of our city. And then if we look at the children, that the impact that it's having, 45% of our students come from families that make less than $10,000. So just wanted to share that with you of how important this particular initiative is, our partnership, and how it's moving the needle. So what are the benefits for having academic coaches inside of your high school? So we have 5 high schools that are involved, but what are those benefits? First of all, they provide content scaffolding. And I don't know about the rest of you all, but we struggle recruiting and retaining teachers. And when we get teachers, and some of our teachers start teaching in some of our poverty areas, they teach there for 2 or 3 years, then they want to transfer out. So having some continuity and having someone else in the classroom that is familiar with the content is helping us with our scaffolding, as well as they serve as role models. Our new superintendent, Dr. Joyce Ray, came out with a powerful initiative talking about how do we save our boys, our brown and black boys. What does that look like in Shelby County? For us, it actually looks like peer power, because we have so many of our students that are in college that now they're coming back serving as coaches, as well as, and I'll admit, our average ACT score is 17.1. Average. For African American boys, it is 14.1 in the city. So again, this is the reason that we have mentors, we have academic coaches, we have success coaches inside of our schools. And finally, it's the University of Memphis Connect. Because what we're big about, we want our students to see what the journey will look like if they stay in with it. As well as a lot of our high schools identify with academic coaches. Because remember, they're from ages 18 to about 24, and many of them connect with our students, and many of them come from the same neighborhoods. So again, University of Memphis Connect. So again, we're in 5 high schools: Douglas, East, Kingsbury, Ridgeway, Whitehaven. Douglas and Ridgeway, they're new this year. As a matter of fact, I was making myself a note that when I get back to Memphis, I need to go check out Ridgeway and Douglas to ensure that our academic coaches as well as staff members are really taking advantage of this particular program. But when it's fully implemented, and this is the place where I want to give a loud shout out to University of Memphis for allowing us to come on their campus, for allowing us to ensure that our students have that exposure. Because students, if they can't see themselves in this place, they stay in the same place. Increased ACT scores, 10 ready and of course exam scores. That's a critical test for us because that tells the state whether or not we fall in the bottom 5%. So again, how do we increase our ACT scores? How do we increase content knowledge? Increase graduation rate, decrease dropout, as well as, and Dennis talked about it, they're in over 100 classrooms. Last year, we were able to recruit 7 of the academic coaches to come on board with us in the city. So we believe also it's good training ground because now students know exactly what they're walking into instead of graduating, applying for a job. They come to the job and then all of a sudden reality hits. So again, increased retention and job satisfaction for teachers. ACT Prep University, and this is the flyer that actually we kick off this Thursday. Our boys need us because we're being intentional around our African American boys, making sure that they're participating in this ACT Prep. Not only African American boys, but throughout the district. It's a 6-week course, and we serve over 900 Shelby County students. And basically what we've seen a 3-point jump. So for us, that's important because we're trying to increase that 17.1 average. As well as, when we talk about scholarships, we're talking about over $1 million in the Tennessee Hope Lottery. Because if our students get to a certain level, then they're offered scholarships through the Tennessee Lottery. And that is it. I hope I finished on time, Angie.
Good. The timer didn't go off once. You all are all right. So the good thing about that is we have a good amount of time for Q&A, and I'm gonna kick off. And you don't have to stand up. We can be informal if you want, because we do have a good amount of time, or you can. So whatever you want. I have a kickoff question for you, and then we'll get some audience questions. So you all talked about successes, and there are lots in terms of the school district and for University of Memphis. I love that example of of 7 teachers coming from University of Memphis to the Shelby County schools. Can you talk about some of the challenges? How have you stayed together? We all know some of the challenges of collaboration in general, like systems like yours don't like to play in the sandbox together.
Yes.
So but can you tell us about a couple stories of specific challenges that you may have faced and how you either have overcome them or how you're kind of still struggling with them?
Mr. McVeigh will talk about one, and this is the number of well-intentioned folks that have showed up into a school telling them, we're here to save you. Mr. Charlie tells a story about it. I think by the time he got into it, he was about 50, and Ann was about in her 50s. And 2 well-to-do white people show up at this almost all-black school and say, "We're here to come into your school and help you out." How many people have told them they know how to help them out and have no clue where they are and what they're doing? So, sticking with it, listening and earning trust was a very, very important part of that. It started with one school, and then went out to another school, and then we were blessed to get a great superintendent, and we now have another really good superintendent. And so getting in, and now we have a proof of concept. This was new, so you had to get in, you had to gain trust, and they developed a product, but now we can know we have a product that works. We have something that works. And you can now have one principal talk to another principal, one teacher talk to another teacher. So I mentioned that one. The other one is probably, and you could talk to a little bit more about that on Angela, even when first Dorsey and now Dr. Ray think this is a great investment, they have a school board they have to justify it to. And, at least you should have some good numbers. I don't know if good numbers will always work at the school board, but you sure don't want to go in without them. So I would say having successes and getting someone, a foundation, a philanthropist, or someone to pilot it and show that thing that worked in Memphis it's going to work here too, and it'll be a good deal. I would say those would be two of the challenges. What else would you say?
I would say also, Angela, and for the group, I think a big challenge for us is to ensure that we make time to plan. So even though we have, foot soldiers and people that are implementing the program, it's critical that Dennis, Tom, and myself, that we stay connected in this work, because if not, it becomes fragmented. So I would have to admit, until probably last year, I had to really get deep knowledge around peer power so that I could also go out and speak to principals about it. And so now people are begging us to become a peer power school. The challenge that we are facing, Tom, this is just a true statement, trying to justify a certain amount to your board and you're moving at a pace that we're moving. Sometimes they may not be where you want them to be, but it takes a lot of talking behind the scenes. And so again, I think Dr. Rudd, as well as Dr. Ray, the president of University of Memphis, as well as the superintendent, they are so committed that they talk about the work and they actually know the work. So it's not just a face, but they actually have been involved.